guys, it's Morgan and welcome back to My Glorious Leaves. The topic of today's video is grow lights. I got into grow lights when I first started getting into plants. I thought that my room was way too dark because I live in a basement, but I have a south-facing window. But since the window is at ground level, it just makes it a little bit difficult to get a lot of light. However, I recently downloaded an app on my phone and found out that my light is actually medium and high, even without the grow lights. And I bought grow lights about a year ago when I started collecting a little bit more. I just wanted to supply more light for my plants because I didn't feel like it was bright enough. And I didn't really do much research about it until recently because I wanted to start growing cacti. I saw some friends in the States were getting these really cool Tephrocarpus geometricus and things like that. And I really wanted to have those, and there's like no places in Canada, or at least where I am, have a lot of really cool cactus. There is a store, Kim's Nature, and I passed up an opportunity to get a really cool cactus. I forget what it's called. It started with a P, but one of my friend's sisters actually has one, and I might get it off of her because I just think they're so cool. But through that, I wanted to start growing cacti and lithops because I just think they're so cool. And I have a couple, but I just saw seeds online for like $5–10, and I thought about it a year ago when I first started getting into plants. The first kind of thing you really get into is succulents. I think that that's a pretty common thing, is to get into succulents first. And I started like propagating my succulents a lot, and that's kind of where I found out I really liked succulents and I really wanted to grow succulents. So I thought that I would want to order some seeds online and grow some succulents, and I never did. And then recently I wanted to start growing succulents and cacti from seed. But the problem with that, if you don't know, is they need intense light. They need like 1,000 watts light to them, where normal grow lights only put out about 100 watts. So the light usage of a watt is how much power of light is going to hit the plant. It can be quite confusing, and I'm no expert on it. I'm telling you, I did most of this research within the last couple days, but I just wanted to talk about it because I find that it's something that everybody has questions about, nobody really talks about, and I think I've seen a couple videos on grow lights, but I wanted to just kind of relay information that I've researched to make it easier in case you guys are researching. So I'm not here trying to say that I know everything about grow lights, but I did the research for the last couple weeks, couple days, and then I wrote it down, and now I'm gonna relay it to you to make it a little bit easier if you guys have some questions about grow lights. So one of the first things, I put a story on my Instagram about what kind of questions you guys had about grow lights, and I had a couple that were actually pertaining to grow lights, so I'm going to mention those. So the first one is, how far should the grow lights be from your plants? And this all depends on the type of grow light. I have very low output grow lights. My white ones, I'm going to show you guys after my different grow lights and what I have them on, but my white grow lights have 80 watts of usage. So they're not putting a whole lot of power towards the plants. But this is a good thing because some of the tropicals that we collect are very delicate, and if they get too close to the light, they'll burn. Oftentimes, if you're trying to buy a Monstera albo or things like that, like a variegated plant, variegated plants need that higher light in order to continue that variegation. It helps them, especially white plants. I know if you see like a golden pothos and it's been put in the dark, it won't be as golden as if it's in a sunny window, but they can handle the low light. So a lot of people try to put these like Monstera albos and things like that right in front of the grow lights, and you'll see that they're burned. So they have these like white parts are like melted, and so that's because they're too close to the grow light. So really, these grow lights are to help supplement light. You would need higher power ones if that was the only light source that you have. For me, I have a nice south-facing window, and I actually wrote down different locations in my room and the different light that they get. Now, I did this test around noon, and it's about, I think it's 10:30 in the morning right now, so it's not as bright as it does get in here. The sun's over here right now. It's kind of, there's like a deck and some trees, and then it will start to come over here, and that's kind of where normally I'll film my videos when it's like really bright out. And then the sun sets this way, just for like kind of direction on where my room is, but I'll explain after. So how far should they be? If they're seedlings, they can be really close, like up to like 6 inches away. And it depends on the strength of the bulb, of course. So incandescent lights. There's incandescent, and then there's our LED grow lights or fluorescent lights. The incandescent lights are the old style light bulbs, and now we make the CFL, the compact fluorescent light, and LED bulbs because they're much more efficient. The incandescent lights are, I don't know what year they were made, but they kind of stopped making them. They still kind of have them, like I work at Canadian Tire in the hardware department, so I know a little bit about lights, but the incandescent lights put out only 10% of the energy that it uses is for light, and about 90% is heat. So that's why they use incandescent bulbs for heating up animals that need that extra heat, such as like a turtle maybe, or some lizards and things like that that need those heat. So they're not very good at the light part. The LED counterparts, majority of their energy is put towards light. So that would be the fluorescent and the LEDs. And they last longer. So if it's incandescent, because it's low light, but it's a lot of heat, you have to keep your plants at least 24 inches away from the light if it's incandescent. I'm doubting that it'll be incandescent. I don't even know if they make incandescent grow lights, but if you're putting an incandescent light in front of your plants, they need to be 24 inches away, so 2 feet away. If it's an LED or fluorescent light, you can keep them 6 to 12 inches away. And I keep my plants, I'd say about 10 inches away from the grow lights. I have like a little grow tent, and then I have like different shelves. They're clipped on, and they're anchored like this. So the angle like here is about 10 inches, and it's longer for some. But I have it like that because I don't want it right on top, because some of them will miss it, so I have it kind of on an angle. If you have seedlings growing and things like that, you can put it a lot closer, just because that really helps with germination. But then once the plants grow, you kind of need to pull it back a little bit. So I don't really know if that answers your question, whoever asked that one. It is tough to get a gauge, but I really recommend getting a light meter on your phone. It uses the camera app, because the cameras in our phones actually have a sensor for the different like light, and that's how it knows to turn the flash on or not. So it actually has that in there already. So you can totally trust those light apps. The one that I downloaded is called Lux Light Meter Pro, and I'll try to put a picture up. It can do it with either the back camera or the front camera. And you just press the button and it tells you how many lumens it is. Lumens are how you measure light. So 1 lumen per square foot is a foot candle. How you classify it, and I'll put it up here. Low light is minimum 25 foot candles. But plants that prefer low light prefer between 75 and 200 foot candles. Medium plants require 75 to 100 foot candles, but they prefer 200 to 500. And highlight, they prefer a minimum of 200, it's a minimum of 200, and they prefer 500 to 1,000. So I kind of wrote down in my book, we have the low, the medium, and the high, and then all the different places in my room. And I was really, really surprised, because I thought that the places that were just going to be medium, I thought that they were low. And until I looked at the chart of low, medium, high, and what actually classified, a lot of them are medium and high without even having me supplement lighting. So that makes me feel a lot better. And especially for someone who is getting into plants more, like for me, I'm trying to perfect the care of the plants I already have rather than taking on too many plants that I can't take care of. And I want to make sure that I'm giving my plants the very best care because I've just been having some issues with root rot lately and things like that, and I want to just get a hold of it and make sure the plants are being cared for properly with proper soil, proper lighting, things like that to maximize their growth. And also because I have a plant shop, I would obviously like my plants to grow faster so that I can sell cuttings and make trades with people, and that happens a lot faster when our plants are doing really, really well. The next question, can you use regular LEDs to grow plants? And the answer is yes, you can. I actually used an LED light bar from IKEA, and I put that on my glass plant shelf, and my plants grew almost the exact same as with an actual grow light. The only thing is because it's not as powerful, you can actually keep it closer. So there's no issue about the distance that you keep plants from, but you can keep them closer because they have less power. If you want to know how much power it has, I'm going to link in the description the different light bulbs that I bought from Amazon, the different grow lights, and one of mine said 100 watts and another one is 80 watts. That's the usage of the bulb. So that's how much power it uses and is going to output towards the plants. So if you want to produce very, very, very high light, for example, cacti need extremely high light, especially in the germination stage, and then they can go back to a little bit lower, but that's why cactus do very best in like a window. Those need 1,000 foot candles of light. And just to kind of give you some perspective, the sun's rays, I put my phone directly in the sun's rays with the light meter, light Lux meter, and it was 20,000 foot candles was the direct sun that I put, and that's through a window. Just my phone to the sun's rays, measured it. The plants to the right of my window, which is just actually right here, and I'll show you after, but the plants just to the right of my window was at 817 foot candles. And then in the window, the cacti and like aloe, things that need brighter sun, that was 1,226 foot candles. And then at my desk, which is back there, naturally it was 298 foot candles. And at my syngonium and my melanochrysum that are at the desk, those were 336 foot candles. So I did different spots, different levels. The propagations above my desk were at 313 foot candles, and these all classify as medium light, by the way, because the medium light prefers between 200 and 500. So I always did the preferred because I want to make sure plants are getting what they prefer. Directly under my white grow light in the tent was between 382 and 400 foot candles. I did a couple different ones on different spots, so between 382 and 400, and that's directly under a grow light. So that's just to kind of give you an idea. Then different spots on the top shelf were between 350 and 405. So if you can kind of understand, since the light is going like this and the rays are going like that, they're all getting the exact same amount of light, even if it's closer or farther from the grow light. That's why it didn't make a difference. And I found that was really interesting because I thought that after a certain amount of time, it would kind of go down, and I'm sure it does, but just between I'd say it's about like a foot and a half, I think maybe like 14 or 16 inches between the grow light and the shelf. I can actually measure that, like, just to be exact, but they were all between 405. So that's really good. That's between, that's about medium light and coming up on, it's past the minimum for high light required plants. The shelf of the purple, blue, red grow lights are 335 foot candles. The IKEA greenhouse, which is on my window exactly in the front there, that one has 1,502 foot candles, so very high light. I have like Hoyas in there, and like propagations. It gets really nice and warm in there, and my begonia actually really likes it there. I think begonias are pretty high light, and yeah, and then I have like a propagation of my Anthurium effusus spathum, the like node. I have it in water in there because it's a lot warmer. then everything just completely stopped. But anyway, every day I'd been going into my grow tent and turning on these purple lights and turning on purple lights over there, not even knowing that that's what those lights are really for. I was always told that since putting the red and blue, it would create a full spectrum and that would be the very best thing for the plant. But since my plants are not flowering nor growing fruit, I put blue lights on now, and I just literally switched this, I'm not even kidding, like probably an hour ago. Because I want my plants to have good foliage and thick stems and big leaves, and that's what the blue lights supply. Yes, some of my plants can and will eventually flower, but since they're such small plants, I'm not really looking for that part. So I think that was something that was really interesting that I learned, is that the blue lights are actually better than the red lights, at least for what I'm using them for. The reason that I bought the white grow lights that I have is actually because Plant Me Ashley used those, and I'm sure that she's probably done a video on her grow lights. I honestly can't remember who I've seen do videos on grow lights, but I just know that I was kind of struggling to understand it until recently. So that's kind of why I want to share this information with you guys, so that if you guys are doing research, it makes it a little bit easier for you to understand and listen to somebody instead of trying to do the research yourself, because I can tell you it's quite confusing if you can't understand it, and it's just a lot to take in. There's so much to learn about grow lights, but so this isn't even gonna be the tip of the iceberg, but I hope that it kind of gives some sort of an idea of the type of grow lights that maybe you need to use or how close you need to keep your plants. But anyway, Plant Me Ashley was using those white grow lights, and so now those would be my preferred. My plants under them are just doing really spectacularly well. I have tons of new growth on my plants under there. It's mostly my more rare plants. I've had some plants, so I keep looking over there because it's right there, but I've had some plants like recover really well there. My Philodendron Splendid, I bought those lights in January. I got my Splendid, I want to say beginning of February, and it's put out a new leaf and it's already working on another one. And I kind of want to say it's probably the grow lights, because I wasn't even fertilizing recently because I actually ran out of my Marfil fertilizer, and I just got it again the other day, but so I'm honestly crediting that to the grow light 100%. I'm not going to throw out the other grow lights, and I'm going to give them a chance in the blue setting because I haven't had them in the blue setting in a while, and maybe I'll do a little video updating you guys on how they're doing in the blue setting versus the red setting slash purple setting. But from now on, if I do have to buy more grow lights, I'm going to be buying the white ones. And yeah, so mainly the whole takeaway from this video is plants are probably receiving more light than you think. So go online, get that chart for how much it is, or you can look right here and you can take some notes and you can write it down. This is the low, the medium, and the high. And write that down and then get that light meter on your phone and see what your light situation is and rearrange your plants that way. And I am sure they're going to start doing better now that they're going to be in a better light place for them. I don't know if I touched enough on using regular lights for your plants, but another thing that you can do is add LED grow lights to any lamp that you have in your room. Mine only works with the candelabra lights, the ones that are, I think they're called the D, but the regular ones are like an A19 bulb. That's like your typical light bulb, and those they sell in grow lights. You can get them at Canadian Tire. I know we have them. I think Home Hardware, probably any pet store would have them, and then any like garden center might have them. The garden center I work at as well doesn't have them, but you can actually put those in a regular light. So if you have a lamp that you're gonna put like on your desk or something like that, you can screw in a light bulb there. I like to think of it as low light is when you can read a book without turning the lights on. If you can comfortably read a book in the light, that's low light. And anything above that is about low to medium, and then high light is pretty, indirect light, pretty high light. So I didn't really realize that a lot of my room is actually high light. I thought that it was just medium. A lot of people use the reference of, high light is right in the window, medium is 2 feet pulled back, low is 10 feet pulled back, but that's really not true at all, because it could be true depending on where your window is located, but for a south window where I am, where there's trees and trees, so I really only get bright light like when it's here, it's not really accurate for me. If you have a big front window and the sun is kind of like a big south-facing window, that would probably be a different story. But for me here, this is not the case actually. It's quite bright all the time. And yeah, even so, even if you had a big bright window, plants being pulled back 10 feet would still be high and medium light, whereas I thought it would be lower light. So I think that would mostly be for north or east facing windows that would be the case. But so this might be just a light video in general, not necessarily grow lights, but I hope that I answered some questions. I hope that maybe you learned something. I hope that it made sense. I don't know. I kind of just been taking notes the last couple days and just had some interesting things written down from some articles that I read and some things that I Googled. And then I answered some of your guys' questions, I hope. I'm gonna cut that part out. Anyway, I hope you guys really enjoyed the video. I hope you maybe learned something. Yeah, like I said, I did a lot of this research really recently, but I kind of put it together. I put a bunch of interesting facts that I saw from a couple articles on there, and just a couple things that I heard and learned, and I hope that I could share that with you. I hope you guys learned something. Maybe you learned a little bit about where you should keep your plants. And now, before we end it, I will just show you a couple different grow lights I have in the situations of how close they are to my plants to maybe give you guys a little bit of a better idea. But like I said, I'm not an expert on this. This doesn't mean that this is exactly how you should place your grow lights or exactly how far they need to be. This is, again, just works for me and my situation. Like I said, I'm in a basement, don't get the best light out of the window, but apparently I do have really good high and medium light, so that's really reassuring to me. But these grow lights, the way that they're placed is for my light situation. This is kind of into a corner, so the light actually really doesn't get much farther than maybe this far into the grow tent on the corner, so it really doesn't get too far. So this is my situation, and I just wanted to show you what I do to grow my plants, and it might not necessarily work for everybody. So I'm actually in the middle of organizing things right now, so everything is a little bit messy, but I just wanted to show you the lighting that this whole, I guess, bookshelf gets. This is, again, 10:30, maybe 11 o'clock in the morning at this point, so it's not like the sun is coming straight through here, but like I said, this greenhouse gets quite a lot of light, and it's very warm from the sunlight. Then if we go over here to my grow tent, these are the lights that I used from Plant Me Ashley. That was the lights that she recommended in her video. And so as you can see, they're probably maybe 12 inches between these plants. So I have a Hoya globulosa here, Florida Ghost, my Splendid is right there. So the plants with more delicate leaves I pull a little bit further back. And like Hoyas have tougher leaves and can take almost direct light at certain times, so I put that really close down. And I have a Meredithii over there and a Silver Dragon and some Anthurium in the further back so that they're not directly in the light. Moving down, I have the blue light, which I've recently put down, and these are some propagations here, and just some cuttings for the shop and things that are kind of growing and or recovering. And so these ones and these ones as well are receiving blue light, and I hope that this is going to help them out with growing thicker stems and more foliage. They were always receiving this blue light, but they were also receiving a red light. So I don't know the effects of this, because if you can see the light, there's spaces in between where the blue lights are turned on, and those are the spots where the red light would turn on. You can switch between the blue light, the red light, or turn both of them on to have purple. If it has both, I don't think it's hurting it at all being on, but I wanted to do a little experiment to see if just having the blue ones on would do more. The plants would always receive this blue light anyway, so they would have already been receiving it, but this way they're only receiving the blue light, and so that is my experiment. And then I have this shelf that is just lacking a little bit. I don't really have anything organized on here properly. I have been reorganizing, and this is only a 2-prong light, and the one in the grow tent was a 4-prong that I got after, so this is actually the very first grow light I bought in my journey. So I have a couple of Hoyas here, and this is a Philodendron gigas, and then I have just, yeah, some more Hoyas, a little peperomia propagation. So anyway, this is the light that this plant receives, this shelf receives. And again, they have these spaces where the red lights would turn on in between. So it'll be interesting to see if it affects the plants in any way, maybe in a more positive way, I'm hoping. But maybe I'll do like a 3 or 4 week, like a month update about how much the plants are growing since going into the blue light. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed that little tour, and I hope you guys learned something. I hope I helped you out. And again, I'm not an expert on this whatsoever, but I just Googled a couple things within the last couple weeks and tried to answer some of your guys' questions from Instagram, just to try to clear up a little bit about grow lights and about growing your plants and putting them in the best light possible for them to grow. So anyway, thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you have a good day. Bye-bye.